in 1947, we moved north of town, and I was, of course, going into second grade, and I was looking forward to going to the country school. They had a school out there that was probably a mile and a half from where we lived, and it was called Hampton, but that was a time when they were consolidating country schools, and they decided they would not have school there that next year, so I didn't get to go to one-room schoolhouse. We had the bus picking us up at the front door. My parents thought that was wonderful. So the farmhouse was 2-bedroom, of course, and it had no electricity and no plumbing. And in 3 months after we moved there, our rural electrification was installed, and we got electricity that fall, I guess. But anyway, it was kind of hard for my sister to have to do her homework. She was older and had homework, no electric lights, and so they had coal oil. And
what about the plumbing? When did you
the
get
plumbing
that?
was very primitive, outside, of course, and it's kind of scary, for people who are little people at that time. You just don't feel very comfortable having to go outside to an outhouse, and you don't take very long when you do that. You're afraid the door might stick and you'll be in there for a while till someone hears you. But that was just part of life in those days. Lots of people had those kind of conditions. But we were able to have animals, and they were cows and pigs and chickens, and we had
This was the first smaller farm that you were at.
yes, and the pigs, we had them named. They were Flossie, Florette, and Florine, and Ruth and I would get on their backs, big hogs, and try to ride them, and they were harmless, I guess. There weren't male hogs, they were all female. And the cows, we only had 2 or 3, I guess, at first, and my mother milked, and my dad, of course, worked away from home, and so she did most of that. And when Dee and I were old enough, we milked, and I always got 1, maybe 2, when we had more cows. We ended up with 5 cows, which is quite a few to milk in the morning and again in the evening.
How old were you then?
I was probably 8 years old, and the barn was dirt floor, and we had stanchions to put the cow's head in, and it was 2 boards and a block over the top, and you just drop that block and it kept their head in, and we fed them while we were milking them. And they of course had hobbles, chains you put on their legs to keep them from moving, but that didn't do a real good job of that. Sometimes they could move while they had them on, and they could pin you between each other or against the wall. It's a little dangerous, really, I think. Very dangerous for young people to be doing that. But we learned how to cope with it, and often I didn't have to go in the morning. They let me sleep because I really didn't want to get up early. And, but I think Damaris always got up and milked her too. But Mother would carry the buckets up to the milk house and strain the milk, and then put it in a milk can in a cold, we had water in like a wooden cask, I guess, inside the milk house, and that would stay there till the milkman came. think he came 2 or 3 times a week and picked it up.
And you sold that milk.
Sold the milk and it went to Greenville at that time. But earlier, when we were doing just cream separation, we had a cream separator, and Mother sent that in a little can about this high, I guess, and that went to Litchfield Creamery, and she would make cottage cheese out of what was drained off. It was really good. She'd hang it up on the line and let it drip, so that was all was left was the curds. And but the fun things we did, we had a creek, and we would go down there and spend time wading and looking for tadpoles and minnows and things like that. It was kind of a pretty creek. In spring it ran pretty deep because it was going towards Shoal Creek, but that was fun. And we had the one bicycle, and we would ride the bike into town. One of us riding, the other one, pedaling, the other one sitting on the seat. And she would send us to get like a loaf of bread or, just something that we could carry home in the basket, like, something she needed for something she was cooking. And a lot of times they would send us to get nails or screws from the hardware store, Dale Schultz Hardware. And if we had a nickel, we went to the little general store across the street from the hardware store, and we'd get either a popsicle or we would get a bottle of pop, because you could get that for a nickel. And Jarrett then. And then there was
well, let's talk about
mhm.
on the next. Let's talk about you moved to another farm, right?
Okay, all right.